Welcome back to another YouTube video. Michael here from S. James Prestige. Today we're going to be doing a slightly different video and we're going to be talking about the benefits of car finance. So I know when a lot of you guys come to us, a common question we hear is, do you self-finance? What is finance? Do you do PCP? Do you do HP? So today I'm going to go over basically finance as a whole, the products that we sell and why you should choose finance when you're purchasing a car. So a lot of the questions that people ask is, what is finance? Now there's two products that we sell here at S. James Prestige. One is PCP, which stands for Personal Contract Purchase, and the next is HP, which is Hire Purchase. Now PCP is basically, you have a final figure at the end of the term, which is also known as a residual value or a balloon figure. Now with a PCP, it's a package designed to keep your savings where they are, which means that you have generally lower monthly figures because of that final optional payment. Whereas a HP, you are basically funding the car over a set term, which in effect, by the end of it, you actually own the vehicle. So what is PCP? Now PCP, the benefit of PCP is that you have that final figure. Now a lot of people are put off by PCP because there's a final figure or a balloon figure or a residual value, as I mentioned at the start. Now the nice thing about PCP is actually having that final figure there, because it means you're not having to place as much capital into the vehicle as say you would for buying a car outright, or if you went for the option of HP. And the nice thing about that is that you're not placing money into something that's losing money very quickly. A car, unfortunately, is never going to appreciate in value. It's only going to depreciate, unless obviously you're funding something pretty limited run or a special edition vehicle. Generally, vehicles do depreciate in value at quite a quick rate as well. The nice thing about PCP is that you're not taking your capital and placing it into the product itself. So you can do what's quite a common term of a zero deposit. So it means taking none of your capital and funding the car over a set term. You can spread the payments over a 4-year term on a PCP, which is probably the most common term. And what you would do is you would spread the payments, and then it gives you the ability to come out of the deal when you want to as well. Now a lot of people aren't aware, with PCP, you're not tied into the term. That's a really important point about PCP. You're not tied in for the full 4 years. If you did want to in 2 years' time to come out of the deal, you could do. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this. In 2 years' time, or when you've paid off half of what you've borrowed, you actually are entitled to what's called a VT, a voluntary termination, which means you can just hand the car back to the finance company. Or what people do now is just basically go to a dealership and trade the car. So as you would do a part exchange if you bought a car cash, with a PCP you can do exactly the same thing. And what we as a dealer would do is ask you, what is your settlement figure? And would value the car, and the difference between your settlement figure and how much we offer would work out what's called your equity or negative equity in the car. Now if you come out after a year, there might be a bit of negative equity, where you might have to put a little bit in yourself to cover that small difference to enable you to come out of the deal. But it's still flexible because you can come out of the deal. Whenever you buy a car, let's say through a bank loan, you are going to be tied into the term unless you obviously clear that early. But if you did clear a bank loan early, the negative effect there is that there is an early repayment charge, which you don't have with PCP. And at the same time, your monthly figures are always going to be lower with PCP because you've got a residual value that offsets against the advance. So PCP is becoming very popular now because people now see that they'd rather keep their capital for opportunity. And what I mean by opportunity is obviously the opportunity to invest and create more capital. Whereas instead of placing capital into a depreciating asset where you're going to lose that capital. One other important point to make about PCP, and a really common question that people ask, and I know a lot of people are driven by, is what we call APR. The APR rate is obviously the interest rate of the finance itself. Now, with PCP, at the cars we're selling, at 8.9%, which is our APR rate, it's not actually a high rate. I know, you can shop around and get a lower rate, but it's actually not to be too fixated on the rate itself. What you need to be looking at is the residual value, because the residual value gives you the opportunity to come out of the deal maybe a little bit earlier, or just offers you that slight bit more flexibility. Now, with APR rate, it's not something to really worry about. What you're doing with a PCP is you're actually paying the depreciation aspect of the car off over a set term. If you buy a car cash, you transfer your capital, and then you do pay what's called a monthly figure in depreciation. And what I mean by that is when you actually have transferred your cash into the car, there is still a point where the car is still losing money. So when you come to sell that car again, it will not be worth as much as obviously what you bought it for. Therefore, if you split this over the monthly term that you've had the car for, you would have realised you paid a monthly figure in depreciation. Now coming on to HP, hire purchase. A lot of the time people want hire purchase because they want to physically own that car, which is fine. However, HP is designed more so if you have more deposit. Let's say you part exchanged your car, you've got a bit of cash in the car that you wanted to transfer into a finance deal. It would be better to put it into a HP, because at the end you'd own the vehicle. So to place a larger amount into a car, you're better off putting it into something that's obviously at the end you're going to own that vehicle itself. So a lot of people go for HP if they've got a large deposit. It keeps down the monthly figures, because generally on HP your monthly figures are going to be greater, and that is because it is in effect paying the car off over the term. But with HP you can spread it over 5 years, and the benefit here is obviously that it keeps your monthly figures down with the longer term. However, you still need the extra deposit, as again I mentioned, if you're going to do a HP, it's better to have that deposit there. Again, with the PCP though, you can come out the deal when you want to. So let's say you took out a 5-year HP. In 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, you just thought, I wanted to get another car. You could do, and again, it'd be the same sort of procedure as a PCP. We'd just basically look at what the amount is to clear the finance and value the car against obviously that figure, work out the difference, and that would work out the equity point of view. So another point to make about PCP over, let's say, a bank loan. So a lot of people come to us and say they're funding a car from a bank loan, and the reason for this is because the APR rate is so low with the bank loan that they don't really want to consider PCP. What I would say is, do you tell us, obviously, if you are funding through a bank loan, when we look at PCP, a lot of the time the figures are a lot lower than a bank loan. Even though the APR rate is higher, as I said before, it's not to be so driven on APR. It's more about your monthly figures and how much that car is going to cost you to own for the term that you're going to have it for. Realistically, are you going to have it for 5 years, which the bank loan is going to have to be spread over? Or are you going to have maybe itchy feet after a couple of years' time? Do you want something flexible? Because a bank loan isn't going to be very flexible. You're going to need to clear that loan in full if you want to come out of it. But also you will pay an early repayment fee to come out of it, and then you have to clear the interest and other things like that. So there's a few negatives there when it comes to a bank loan. But with PCP, it is designed to keep your savings where they are, but it's flexible. So what it means is that in a couple of years' time, you can come out, and there's no early repayment charge for that as well. But commonly, the figures on a PCP, because you have that final figure, generally are lower than a bank loan as well. And the monthly figure obviously is what you want to be looking at. Now, an important point to touch on is, why do people actually finance a car? And I've kind of touched on this already. The main thing is, a lot of people who actually can still afford the vehicle do fund the car through PCP, and actually we're seeing this a lot more commonly now. So traditionally people look at finances, seeing it as a negative, as they haven't quite got the capital together to actually own that vehicle. However, that's becoming a thing of the past now. The reason for that, again, so going back to PCP, you can have a really low monthly figure, and PCP can actually offer you the ability to save some money overall. And what I mean by that is, if you were to purchase a car cash and you say transferred £25,000 for a Mercedes GLC that we have, in the time that you own it for, if you sell it after 2 years, you need to work out the difference between how much the car cost and how much you sold it for, and then work out the difference between that figure. And generally, a lot of the time, the difference between what you bought the car for and sold it for is greater than how much it would have cost you to have funded the vehicle through PCP. So not only can you save money, it's also offering you the ability to not transfer your capital into a depreciating asset. And that's why a lot of people now, even though they can fund the car outright, will not fund a depreciating asset with their own capital. They will take that capital and use it to invest somewhere else or use it for opportunity in other areas. So we're on the website now, and I'm just going to show you a few ways of obviously using our website to see the car that you obviously want, and then obviously perform a finance application. Now it's really easy. If you go up to the used car section, you can then click on the model obviously that you're looking for. So you can take advantage of the filter search that we have on the website. So if we click on Mercedes and let's say pop in GLC, then know you might want a black GLC, search, and then it lists all the available cars that we have for sale. Now it does say here obviously finance from a certain amount per month. However, if we click into the actual car itself, scroll down and click on the finance tab, it then gives you the two options, as I say, that we offer, and that is the personal contract purchase and hire purchase. So using the PCP on the website, if we click on the annual mileage, this is just basically how many miles a year you do. So commonly a lot of people do sort of 8 to 10,000. Then a small deposit also calculates to 1,000, which is fine. And again, keeping your deposit low on a PCP is the better thing to do. But let's just say we only put in £500. It then brings up your monthly figure here, which is so 389.27. Now when we scroll down, what you want to be having a look at is the optional final payment here. And the nice thing about the Mercedes GLCs is they actually hold quite what we call good residual value. So it means that the car is going to maintain the value of the car very well. And the final figure therefore is actually quite high at £15,175. And it means that the difference between the price of the car and the final figure, if there's a lower difference between these two, it means that your monthly figures are going to be generally lower. So this car is obviously up for 27,000, and with only £500 deposit, you've actually got a really low monthly figure here of £389.27. And again, with the PCP, it's nice and flexible where you can come out the deal when you want to. So say in a year and a half, 2 years time, you thought that actually I wanted to get into something a little bit newer, or even the same car but 2 years newer, you could do. We can then obviously take the car back off you and then obviously get you into another PCP for around the same amount per month, but on a car that's 2 years newer. Or if you wanted to explore another model, then you can do the same thing again after the 2 years. So there we have it, guys, a little bit of a different video today. If you are new to the channel, do subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when we make a new upload. There'll be plenty more videos to come very, very soon. Drop a comment in the comment section if there's any other questions that you guys have on finance at all. Far away, and we'll do our best to come back to you on those. But that's all from us today, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon.